Hi, you guys. Welcome to day 14 of Hot Topics and Cool Drinks. This event is created exclusively for adults 50 and over, especially for those of us who are corporate executives, past or present, entrepreneurs, educators, and family stewards, parts of households that have invested in private education, people who understand that values, not trends, is what guide families. Each evening, we gather here to center ourselves in clarity and conversation, and every night includes a featured book that aligns with purpose, legacy, and awareness, a wellness tip for women navigating menopause, a discussion about parenting in today's digital world where online cruelty, misinformation, and influence culture challenge everything that we've built. And yes, tonight and every night begins and ends with a poem from my book, She Shines Anyway, because grounding ourselves in intention is how we stay present and powerful. I'm your host, Antoinette Wolf, a former corporate executive turned philanthropist, entrepreneur, licensed real estate agent, writer, and mother. And tonight, we're diving into meaningful discussion. As always, we're going to ground ourselves in poetry first. Then we're going to move into our featured book, Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. From there, we're going to explore tonight's wellness tip and women navigating menopause, reflect on the addictive design on online culture in our Hot Topics segment, and then we're going to shift into the business corner, where we'll look at how billion-dollar industries profit from illusions and how we as executive parents and grandparents can respond in strategy. Okay? Now, before we get started with that, let's take a look at the drink that I have as my cool drink for the night. I'm drinking another Fever Tree drink. It's only 35 calories, and this one is called Sparkling Cucumber. And before I take a little sip, I want to make a toast to tonight. This is really good. I'm a cucumber fanatic, so if you like cucumbers, you're gonna love this. You can definitely taste the cucumber is crisp, you know. It's delicious and it smells absolutely incredible. I actually give it an 8.5 or a 9. Yes, definitely, it's that good. If you like cucumbers, you're gonna love this drink. So we're gonna go ahead and start in this book, which is She Shines Anyway. This is 76 poems for that woman that refuses to dim her light. I wrote this book, and you can find it on Amazon.com or my website, bewellnesscenter.shop. The poem that I'm reading tonight is Wolves Don't Brag to Sheep. I don't move or need to announce it. I just move. I don't need applause. I've got proof. While they gossip, I'm building. While they're copying, I'm shifting. There's no need to roar when you walk like you own the ground. There's no need to flex when the power makes sound. They try to bait me with pettiness, but I don't entertain the cheap. I don't perform for the insecure. Wolves don't perform or brag to sheep. You like that? You can find it at bewellnesscenter.shop. So yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and get started in our featured book. I'm going to take a little sip first. A little sip of my drink. The featured book for tonight is Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Okay. And it was published in 1996, a long time ago. Look how big this book is. This novel is monumental, not just in size. It is over 1,000 pages long, but in scope. Wallace examines addiction, entertainment, family dysfunction, mental health, and the way modern culture numbs itself through pleasure and distraction. The book is set in a near future North America. It's set in a near future North America and revolves around a mysterious film cartridge called Infinite Jest. A movie so entertaining that anyone who watches it becomes incapable of doing anything else. Viewers lose all motivation for life outside of the pleasure of watching, ultimately wasting away. That idea becomes a powerful metaphor for our own reality, where endless scrolling, binge watching, and algorithm-driven feeds consume countless hours of our lives. What makes this novel so remarkable is that its breadth and ambition. It weaves together tennis academics, halfway houses, politics, advertising, and the darkness corners of mental illness. It asks us to face one of the hardest truths about modern society. What if the very things we love most, the diversions we think are harmless, are what destroys us? Even though Infinite Jest was written as fiction, Wallace fills it with realities that hit uncomfortably close to home. The story spans multiple threads: the lives of students at the Enfield Tennis Academy, the residents of a nearby halfway house battling addiction, and shadowy political organizations fighting over possession of the lethal entertainment cartridge. At first, these worlds feel disconnected, but as the novel progresses, they reveal how addiction, distraction, and despair tie everything together. The length of the book itself, stretching past 1,000 pages, almost becomes part of the message. Reading it requires commitment, focus, and endurance, much like navigating the overwhelming flow of information in our daily lives. Wallace makes readers feel that the weight of the access, the endless loops of entertainment, and the sheer exhaustion of trying to make sense of a world addicted to itself. The truth buried in this fictional work is this: Infinite Jest is not just about a film, it is about us. It is about how easily humans can lose themselves to pleasure, how fragile our focus can be, and how dangerous it becomes when entertainment overtakes meaning. Okay? Now, let me share with you about David Foster Wallace. First of all, I had a major crush on him. Okay? Major crush on him. Yeah. So, he was born in New York in 1962 and grew up in Illinois. He quickly gained a reputation as one of the most brilliant writers of his generation, known for his encyclopedic vocabulary, wit, ability to dissect American culture. Wallace's writing was both intellectual and deeply human. Beyond Infinite Jest, he wrote essays and short stories that explored everything from cruise ship vacations and a supposedly fun thing that I'll never do again, to the philosophy of language, to the way consumerism shapes identity. His nonfiction work was just as highly regarded as his fiction, cementing him as a writer who could move seamlessly between storytelling and cultural critique. Yet, despite his genius, Wallace battling lifelong depression, he was open about his struggles with mental illness, addiction, and the difficulty of finding meaning in an overwhelming world. Sadly, in 2008, at the age of 46, he died by suicide. His passing was a devastating loss to literature and to those who admired his honesty about human vulnerability. So why does this matter to us? Is that when we look at Infinite Jest today, nearly 3 decades after its publication, it feels more prophetic than ever. Wallace was describing the dangers of overindulgence, distraction, and a culture hooked on entertainment before smartphones, TikTok, or Instagram even existed. For us, corporate executive parents and grandparents, the message is crystal clear. If we don't guard ourselves and our families, we risk losing purpose to endless distraction. Wallace reminds us that entertainment without boundaries becomes enslavement, and only intentional living grounded in values and legacy keeps us free. Okay? Yes, this book is Infinite Jest. And again, I absolutely adored him. I adored his mind. I adored him. What I can tell you is this: I don't have the book. You can find this book in Barnes and Nobles, and I'm probably Books A Million, places like that. I don't have it. I don't even know if I'll have it on my website, bewellnesscenter.shop. But you definitely, if you are a person that you're more of a truth seeker, you're candid about reality, you're not saturated with consumerism, you're going to love this book, and you're going to love the fact that even though it's a fictional book, and I'll be honest, it's entertaining. It is entertaining. I mean, God, he had such a wit about him. But you're going to appreciate that someone is saying these things. You know, I want to say saying these things out loud because that's the type of writer he was. But you will appreciate his I don't know, bluntness, I guess would be the word. All right. So again, Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. Now, let's move on. Let me have a little sip of my drink. When I tell you this smells delicious, it does. So the wellness tip of the night for women that are navigating menopause, women between, well, 55 and older. But one thing that I have shared with you guys is menopause can start as early as 35, sometimes a little younger than that, you know, but 35 to 55 is typically when menopause begins for most women. Myself, I am currently going through it. And so, yeah, each night I've been sharing a menopausal tip that has assisted me in not losing my mind, not gaining weight, losing weight actually, and keeping my hair, keeping and growing my hair. So tonight I'm sharing tonight's wellness reminder: hydration and minerals matter. Women in menopause often experience fatigue and brain fog. And while hormones play a big role, simple hydration and magnesium-rich foods like almonds, spinach, and pumpkin seeds can dramatically improve clarity and energy. Don't underestimate the basics. Your body and brain will thank you. And I have talked about pumpkin seeds, spinach, and almonds often. Definitely leafy foods. I eat them. I mean, there's not a day that goes by I don't have a salad, a huge salad. And I always have my nuts for sure. So yeah, let's go on into the hot topic. The hot topic of the night, similar to what we've been talking about, the addiction of online culture. Now this happens to be inspired by Wallace's Infinite Jest. Our hot topic tonight: how has online culture become addictive by design? By design? This is a question. We live in an era where children, teens, and even adults can become glued to entertainment in ways that echo the novel's theme. Social media, algorithms, endless video feeds, and influencer culture operates like the infinite jest itself, capturing attention so fully that it disrupts sleep, health, relationships, and purpose. The scary truth is that many platforms today are not built for connection or education. They are engineered for addiction. Likes, shares, and endless scrolls are the digital equivalent to casino slot machines, keeping us hooked with dopamine hits and false validation. And as I've said before in this series, it's time for parents to begin shifting the narrative for our children. Instead of allowing kids to view the internet as a stage for popularity contests or endless entertainment, we need to reframe this. The internet at its best should be approached like a virtual mall, a space where you can shop, explore, and learn intentionally. Think about it. When we walk into a mall, we know that there's a purpose for us going in there. We don't camp in the food court for days or stare at the storefront window forever. We enter, we get what we need, and we leave. If we begin teaching our children to treat their time online in the same way, focused, intentional, and often tied to business or learning opportunities, we can help them reclaim the power over their attention instead of being consumed by hype. They can build skills, start businesses, and see the internet as a tool for growth, not a trap for distraction. And we must never, ever forget this. So much of what we see online is not even real. Images of lifestyles, vacations, wealth, and often people's faces are often completely fabricated with the help of advanced editing and AI-driven applications like today's apps like Facetune, FaceApp, Remini, Lindsay AI, and Photoshop can generate flawless skin, fake luxury backdrops, and entire lifestyles that don't even exist. Children and adults alike are being tricked into comparing themselves to illusions. That is the deeper danger. The addiction just isn't to content, it's also to fantasy. And when we or our children measure our worth against fake realities, we lose confidence, focus, and purpose. And here's where the brilliance of Wallace's work shines through. When Infinite Jest was published in 1996, he was already warning us about the dangers of entertainment so powerful that it consumes every part of our lives. Back then, there were no smartphones, there was no social media feeds, and no AI apps altering reality. Yet Wallace could already see the trajectory. His Infinite Jest was a movie so addictive it left people incapable of living, and that metaphor is exactly what we are facing in 2025. Now, in 1996, it felt like a satire. In 2025, it feels like a prophecy. The endless scroll of influencer culture, the obsession with likes and followers, and the fake lifestyle generated by AI are all modern forms of Wallace's perfect entertainment. The gap between then and now shows us just how far society was driven and has drifted into a very nightmare that he did in fact warn us about. What was fiction then has become daily life now, and unless we interrupt the cycle, the cost will be our children's focus, our family's strength, and our society's sense of purpose. Okay? And that's real. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. I'm gonna go into the business corner. And you guys know there's so much that I have to say that I prepare this and then I read it because I don't really practice it. I mean, I just let it come out and I move on. But being that there is a major crisis right now, like we talked about, the mental health crisis that's taking on our teens and college students, definitely, you know, every chance I get, I'm going to talk about it. All right. So yeah, so now following this, let's talk about the application. So we're in the business corner now. Let's look at what this means to us in the business world. Applications like Facetune, Lightricks, which is Lightricks is a private company but valued over $1 billion. Now this has to do with the fakeness of what's going on. The AI applications that's actually being used to have our kids compare themselves with false lifestyles. Okay, so there's Facetune, Lightricks, which is a private company but valued over $1 billion. Face App, which is a wireless lab, tens of millions of downloads. Remini by Bending Spoons, a company valued at nearly $3 billion. Lindsay AI, Prisma Labs, which went viral in 2022 and beyond. And Photoshop, which is Adobe Incorporated. And the ticker for that is ADBE. You might want to write that down. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. ADBE for Adobe, with a market capitalization over 200 billion. These are not just casual apps. They are billion-dollar industries. These platforms thrive because people are willing to invest in an illusion of perfection. Now, so for us corporate executive parents and grandparents, this is a teaching moment. We must help our children and grandchildren see beyond the illusion and recognize the deeper truth. When you understand how these platforms profit, you begin to see the difference between being consumed by hype and using the tools with intention. This is where legacy comes in. Our parents and grandparents taught us through education, perseverance, and values that legacy is built on substance, not on spectacle. Many of us are the first or second generation of college graduates carrying the weight of what was sacrificed before us. Now it is our responsibility to ensure that our children don't get swept up in empty images, but instead continue to expand on that foundation. And this matters even more today because so many of our children, the number one dream today is to make it online. They want to be influencers, digital entrepreneurs, or content creators. On the surface, this sounds like business, and in some cases it can be, but too often it's actually approached with not the seriousness or structure that's a real business demands. It becomes a pursuit of attention rather than the pursuit of value. And that's where our role as parents become critical. We are executives. We must remind them that if you want to treat the online world as a business, then it has to be run with discipline, planning, and strategy, the same way that we run companies, investments, and family businesses. Otherwise, it's not business, it's distraction disguised as business. And here we are with that truth about the ticker, the Adobe ticker, ADBE, being at the center of so much of this online content creation manipulation. It would be foolish to overlook the importance of investing in it because again, it's a hot app. It's a hot app. So we don't want to be that lost that we forget that if our kids are going to be on there, and since so many people are using it, why not benefit from it, being that we are corporate executives, okay? But we also have to recognize that it's beyond that, okay? So anyway, Adobe is not just a software company, it's an empire that fuels everything from Photoshop edits to marketing campaigns across industries. If our children are going to be online, they should know that the real opportunity lies not in comparing themselves to fake images, but in understanding and even investing in the companies powering those images. That is what's going online. That is what going online should mean in 2025. Approaching it as a business, as investment, as strategy, not as empty entertainment. And remember, this conversation is exclusively for business executives and families like ours that have invested in legacies before us, who have carried forward traditions, education, entrepreneurship, and stewardship. We are teaching our children to do the same, to approach the online world with wisdom, to recognize its opportunities, and to keep the tradition of legacy alive. And when we show them how to approach the online world with discipline, like entering a virtual marketplace with a plan, we prepare them to build businesses, innovate, and create lasting impact. Legacy is not expanded by chasing fake lifestyles. It is expanded by focus, vision, and stewardship of what was already invested in us. This is how we protect and grow what our parents built, by refusing to be distracted, by seeing clearly, and by teaching the next generation to move with wisdom, not with comparison. And when we tie this back to Wallace's Infinite Jest, the connection becomes clear. Just as his fictional perfect entertainment consumed people's lives without them realizing it, today's version of making it online risk doing the same to our children. If we don't teach them to see online influence for what it is, often empty, fabricated, and profit-driven, they may confuse attention with achievement. Legacy is not built in distraction. Legacy is built in discipline, education, and purpose. That is the message that we must reinforce, both in our homes and in our boardrooms, okay? So, before we close tonight, let's have a grounding poem from my book, She Shines Anyway. Yes, I am wrapping it up. Okay. And where am I at? Right here. So this poem is called Wellness is a Form of Rebellion. They taught us to run until we burnt out, to give until empty, to wear pain like purpose. But I rebelled, I rested, I nourished, I said no. I chose wholeness over hustle, peace over praise. And in a world that profits off of women who forgets themselves, choosing wellness is war. Yes. And I feel like that is so in alignment of what we're referring to when we're talking about Wallace's Infinite Jest. And it's not about giving up, because obviously, I mean, we come from parents who have invested in our education so that we can be the people that we are today. We are investing in our children's educations, you know, and we are working on expanding their legacies, our legacies, right? At the same time, we must find that balance and understand that, you know, we're not put here to be robots. We're put here to be human. We're put here to be human. And so that is what I love about tying that poem into the book, is because that's what David Foster, you know, may he rest in peace, that is what he poured into that. That is the message that he poured into this book, is don't be a robot. Yeah, strive for all of these things. Absolutely enjoy life, you know, but you see what happened. You see what happened. And the reason, you know, I'm not going to go into it. We'll have to talk about David Foster Wallace on another type of series, because I'm telling you, when I say I love that man, I did. Okay? I'll talk about him another time. Anyway, so as we close tonight's day 14 of Hot Topics and Cool Drinks, remember what Wallace warned through fiction. When society values entertainment over purpose, we risk losing ourselves. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place for day 15. Join me again for another night of books, menopause, wisdom, business clarity, conversation that matter for families like ours who believe in legacy. Until then, stay present, stay grounded, and shine anyway. All right, that's it. That's all I have for now, guys. I'm going to take a final drink. And I'll see you soon. Bye.